Here's our agenda. We're going to start with a point of view between engineers and surveyors and CAD and TPC because it's really a different point of view. We're going to take a look at the views in Traverse PC and the fact that they're all based on data. We're going to look at the difference between managers and regular windows. We'll take a look specifically at the tasks manager, the points manager, traverses manager, drawings manager. We're going to take a look at the names you use within your survey. We're going to look at the drawing view and the traverse view, and then there will be a question and answer section. And I will give you some resources at the end as well. We need to talk about point of view. This is critical to understanding how Traverse PC works and why it works the way it does. You have to keep in mind that traditional CAD was created for engineers and architects, not surveyors. And engineers and architects don't care so much about where the stuff they're designing is in the world. They just care about designing this. They don't care about coordinates. So, I don't know how many times you've sent your data out to an architect or engineer and then they make their modifications and send it back to you and the coordinates had changed. That's because they don't care about coordinates. But surveyors, we measure and define what is. What is the world like right now? And then we may go in and modify it for a specific project. But we start with what is, not what will be. So that's a basic difference in point of view. And traditional CAD programs were designed for architects and engineers to design things. The surveying portion of the business is very small compared to engineers and architects and all the other folks that use CAD for creating things. So surveying is kind of the bastard stepchild, for lack of a better term, for CAD. The programs that have built their surveying package on top of traditional CAD they have had to do a lot of different workarounds to make traditional CAD do surveying. They took a lot of time to get their software to deal with all of the CAD workarounds. Now, we took a different approach. We approach everything in Traverse PC from the surveyor's perspective. We're not based on a traditional CAD engine, so there are no CAD workarounds needed. We are working from the data. I just want to mention everywhere in this PowerPoint presentation, which you'll have access to a copy of, these are live links to various things various resources that'll help you. So you'll see these sprinkled throughout. All of Traverse PC's views are based on the data. Because we start by measuring and defining what is, Traverse PC is designed so that every view you look at in Traverse PC is created by the data. Every view is a view of your data, and that includes the drawings. The drawings are not created by you going in and snapping lines between points. What happens if you miss a snap? I've seen it in DWG files that come from architects and engineers. I see it frequently. They thought they'd snapped it right, but when you really take a look, no, it's not quite right because they missed their snap. In Traverse PC, that doesn't happen because we're going to let the data do the work, and then we'll just handle the exceptions. Let Traverse PC do all the busy work, and then it's up to you to handle the little things that are different. Our goals are accuracy primarily, because everything is based on the data. There are no missed snaps. Efficiency, we want to set things up one time and use them many times. You shouldn't be having to do the same thing over and over again. You should be able to store those out to use them again. And flexibility in that you can change anything along the way. You tweak things as needed. So we're going to start by taking a look at the different kinds of windows and views in Traverse PC. We have two kinds of views in Traverse PC. We have managers and traditional windows. A traditional window is like this drawing view here. I resize it, drag it around, whatever. This is just a traditional Windows window. The managers are a different kind of view. I have 4 managers docked and auto-hidden on the left side of my screen. I have 3 docked and auto-hidden on the right-hand side of the screen. These managers are typically a higher level view. They're used for organizing larger portions of your file. The traditional views, like the drawing view or the traverse view, those are where you'll be spending most of your time doing most of your work. We're going to start with the Tasks Manager. Now, the Tasks Manager is the highest level view in Traverse PC. It deals with entire files. The top section will have a recent file list. It gives you access to your surveys folder. An optional shared surveys folder gives you access to the sample surveys. You could also create a new survey from here. Now, I want to point out that in Traverse PC, there's always more than one way to do anything, and there's no right or wrong way. If I want to create a new survey, I could come here to the Tasks Manager and create a new survey, or I could come up and click this button on the button bar to create a new survey, or I could go into the File menu to create a new survey. So there's always more than one way to do anything, and it's not right or wrong. It's whatever works best for you. So the Tasks Manager, the first section is access to your files. The second section, the Survey Information section, provides information about the file that you have open. It also gives you a link here to go in and change this information if there's something you need to change. If you're set on a specific coordinate reference system, it'll tell you what coordinate reference system you're on. The next section is the TPC license section. It talks about your program and your license. It shows you your precise version, what version you're on, etc. There's your serial number, all of that information. The TPC online section provides access to various parts of the Traverse PC website. The support this version link takes you out to the page where you downloaded the program from. You can go out there and get other downloads, check to see if you're up to date, things like that. Support online gives you access to the support page on the website. You can send an email to us from there, whatever. You've also got the Learning Center out there. Hopefully you're all familiar with that. The main home page, and then screen sharing. This would take you to install Ring Central Meetings if we wanted to do a screen sharing with you. The bottom section is the learning guides. Hopefully most of you are familiar with these. These are broken down into various aspects of the program, and the learning guides give you step-by-step instructions on how to do various things within Traverse PC. So you can see the Tasks Manager, this is not where you're going to spend a lot of time, but there is a lot of stuff here for you. The Points Manager. Each survey file in Traverse PC can contain an unlimited number of points. The Points Manager gives you direct access to every point in your survey, even if those points are not in use anywhere else in the file. So I could have points in this file that I'm not using anywhere else. I would have direct access to those points here. One thing that is not unique about the Points Manager is that it is user customizable. Every view in Traverse PC is user customizable. If I go in the Points Manager to Tools, go down to View and choose Format View, these are the various fields that I can be displaying. So I could display latitude and longitude, convergence factors, anything I want to include here. You can do this in all of the different views. I would suggest that you might want to take a look at all of the different managers and see if you want the different managers to be displaying different information than the way they come out of the box from Traverse PC. So every view is customizable. Keep that in mind. The Traverses Manager. First of all, we should probably talk about what is a traverse in Traverse PC. A traverse in Traverse PC is any collection of points that belongs together, and you're the person who decides what belongs together. The Traverses Manager allows you to create, organize, and display your traverses in the drawing view. A typical file in Traverse PC might contain any number of record data traverses, possibly any number of field data traverses, any number of feature traverses. You can see here, there's up at the top here, we have imported data. So here's a bunch of field data, all right? And then we've got lot traverses, and you can see that these are grouped into different sections. This is optional. You don't have to do this, but you can use these groups to help you organize when you get into a large file like this subdivision file. If I'm not interested in these areas, let's say I just want to pay attention to my lots and my buildings, I can simply shrink the areas that I'm not interested in, okay? So the Traverses Manager allows you to create and organize the various traverses. Now remember, it also allows you to choose which traverses are displayed in the drawing. Remember earlier I told you that even the drawings are a view of your data. They're simply a graphic view of your data. So if I come over here and untag all of these lots, and you watch the drawing over there, those lots disappear from the drawing. I go ahead and tag them again, and they come back into the drawing. So you can think, for those of you that have a CAD background, you can think of traverses as somewhat akin to layers. So this is like turning layers on and off in a CAD file. Now in CAD programs, I'm sure those of you who are familiar with traditional CAD, I'm sure that you're familiar with by layer setting. Layers are not all that useful in Traverse PC because they're basically replaced by these traverses. Now we want to have a method for telling Traverse PC how to draw these traverses. I've selected these lot traverses. If I right-click them, I can choose Traverse Drawing Settings. And this allows you to specify how you want these traverses to be displayed. Remember earlier I mentioned efficiencies. You want to set things up once. Now, so these are property boundary traverses. If I have stored property boundary settings, I can pull that out of a list. So I could choose my property line settings out of my list, say OK, and that will apply it to all of these traverses. So when you set these traverse drawing settings up the way you want to go down and save your settings. And you can either create a new set of settings or update an existing set. This is where, as you go forward, you'll tweak things a little bit as you go forward. When I choose OK, those settings that I've just chosen then are applied to those lot traverses that I had selected. The Drawings Manager. I told you earlier that each file can contain an unlimited number of points. These points can in turn be shared among an unlimited number of traverses. These traverses in turn can be shared among an unlimited number of drawings. So each file can contain an unlimited number of drawings. So this one Traverse PC TRV file contains all of these points, however many there are, all of these traverses, however many there are, and all of these drawings. These are not in separate files. These are all within the same TRV file. The Drawings Manager, just like the Traverses Manager, it allows you to create, organize, and open your drawings. And just like the Traverses Manager, it can be set up to show different groups. So I can shrink this list of drawings as needed. Let's talk for a moment about the names that you use within your file. Remember I told you that all of the points, it's an unlimited number of points in your file. Well, we don't care what point numbers you use. That's totally up to you. All right. The same for your traverses. We don't care what names you use for your traverses or your drawings. This is not like file names. Everybody knows there are certain rules about file naming. You can't use a slash in a file name, for example. In Traverse PC, these names within the file, there are no rules. You name things whatever you want to name them. Now, I recommend that the names you use should be intuitive to make it easy for you to know what is contained within those traverses or within those drawings. And this file that I have open here is an excellent example of that. If I want the lot 13 traverse, well, it's not hard to find it because it is named appropriately. Or if I want to take a look at the example layout for lot 13, well, it's not hard to find that drawing. So you want these names to just make sense for you, especially in a large file like this, but even in a simple file, you want things to just make sense. I'll give you another example. Besides a complex file, let's say you do some work for somebody today and then it's all done, it's filed, you move on to the next project. Now, 10 years from now, maybe this guy comes back, he wants to subdivide his property. You bring up this 10-year-old file, even though it only has a few traverses in it, you want to know what they are so that you're not fumbling around in this. You can just get right to work on this new project starting from this same file. So make the names intuitive. Be aware on traverse names, those traverse names can be used as a part in your drawings. For example, these lot labels where it says lot 14 and the square footage and acreage, that's being drawn by that traverse. So if you're going to use the lot labels with the traverse name, you want to type in the traverse names the way you want them displayed on the drawing. So if you need to use all caps on your drawing, like a lot of us do, enter your traverse names that way. Okay, so these should be intuitive and think ahead a little bit. Am I going to use this traverse name on the drawing? Well, then I better just type it in the way I want it on the drawing. So there are no rules on these names. You can name these things whatever you want to name them. If you want to name a point Fred, no problem. Name that point Fred. We don't care. It's totally up to you. There is only one rule on all of these names, and that rule is there can be only one. So there can only be one point one. There can only be one traverse, lot 13. There can only be one drawing, lot 13 example layout. All right, so there can only be one of each of these like items. Could I have a point named Fred and a traverse named Fred and a drawing named Fred? Sure, no problem with that. But I can't have 2 points named Fred or 2 drawings named Fred, etc. So that's the only rule on these names. Make them make sense to you just to make your life easier going forward. Every now and then I get a file from a new user and the traverses are named 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, how would you know what's in traverse 4? Let's take a closer look at the drawing view. And I'm going to switch files for this. I'm going to go to a simpler file now. So notice I'm going to the tasks manager for this. It's just where I go. So we've already discussed that the drawing view provides a graphic view of your traverse data. And you define how that data is displayed. I want to set up these 2 lot traverses down in the southeast corner. I want to set them up to draw as with property lines. So I've just selected them. Let me back up a step. For those of you who are not familiar how I did this, let's talk general basic windows for just a moment. Selecting multiple items. If I want to select multiple items, if I click on lot 2 and hold down my shift key and click on tangents, it selects a contiguous group. So shift click selects a contiguous group. If I click on cul-de-sac, hold down Control and click on Tangents and Curves and Lot 3 and Lot 2, I'm selecting individual objects. So a shift click allows me to select a contiguous group. Control click allows me to select and deselect individuals. So give you an example, maybe I want everything except curves. Well, I could use a shift click to select all of them and then a control click to deselect curves. So this is how we select multiple items, and this is standard Windows in case you weren't aware. So I'm selecting Lot 2 and Lot 3 using a control click. I'm going to right click them and go to Traverse Drawing Settings, and I'm going to pull up my property line settings for these two lots. Say OK, and now they are being displayed the way I've designated. What you want to do is you want to let Traverse PC do most of this for you, and then you'll handle the exceptions. I mentioned this earlier. We have 3 levels of control for every drawing. And you want to handle things at the highest level possible. All right? The 3 levels that we have are by the drawing. Okay, I want everything in this drawing to do something. Well, I go to Tools, Drawing Settings, and I set whatever that is. For example, my leaders here. I don't want dashed lines. I want solid lines, darn it. Let's go ahead and set these to solid lines. And I really like the solid arrowheads. And I like them to be a little bit bigger than that. It's just what I like. And I'll say, OK. Yeah, there we go. Those look better. So I'm handling how my leaders look for the entire drawing. I'll go back in here. You know, I also want to clear out all these point symbols. I don't want the lines going in there like that. So I'll go back into my drawing settings. Let's go to clear background and tell it to clear the background out of all survey space blocks and symbols. There we go. That looks a little better. I don't like that little gap around them though. Let's go back in there and let's narrow that a little bit. So let's take that down to 0.01 should be pretty good. There we go. That looks good to me. So I'm handling this for my entire drawing this way. So that's the top level of control for this. We can also control things by the traverse, as I've done here. You can see that Lot 2 and Lot 3 aren't being drawn the way these other traverses are. So we're controlling them by traverse. And then the third level of control is individual objects. If I need to change any of these individual objects, I will set everything at the highest level possible and then change the individual things I need to change. These two neighbors are having a feud, so I want to draw a barbed wire fence between their properties. I can simply go to the properties of this line and tell it that, oh, this line needs to be a barbed wire fence because these two idiots are feuding. Okay, so let Traverse PC do the majority of the work for you. You handle the exceptions. Let's say that you went out in the field and you found all of these corners except one. You had to set one of them. Well, you'd set up your traverses to draw the found corners, and then you would simply go change that individual symbol to a set rebar or pipe or whatever you're using. So that's how we're designed to work here. Handle things at the highest level possible and then just deal with the exceptions as you run into them. Remember that every view is a view of your data. And what that means is that if I change my data anywhere in this file, it changes that data everywhere in this file. So I'll give you an example. Let's take a look at point 3. Point 3 is shared. between lot 2 and lot 3. When this file was originally created, it was created with 0.1 first at some set of assumed coordinates, and then record data was used to close lot 2. When lot 3 was created, because there was no discrepancy, no disagreement in the record data between lot 2 and lot 3, when lot 3 was created, they didn't start it with 2 new points. They started it by recalling point 3, recalling point 4, and then using the record data to close that lot. So point 3 and point 4 are shared between lot 2 and lot 3. Now, because that is the case, this property line is also shared between lot 2 and lot 3. So this raises the question, when objects are shared between traverses, do they get drawn more than once? Point 4 is actually in 3 different traverses, but I'll tell you right now it's only drawn once. If I hover over it, it is being drawn by the lot 2 traverse. If I hover over this line, it is being drawn by the lot 2 traverse. Okay, so we're only drawing these one time. Now you may end up in a situation where the wrong traverse is drawing something. For example, these western lines of lot 2 and lot 3 are also shared with the cul-de-sac traverse. And it's not being drawn the same. It's being drawn with tick marks and no labels. So what if I wanted, I don't want lot 3 to draw these west lines. What if I wanted the cul-de-sac to draw that? Well, that is determined. What determines which traverse draws that is the sequence in the traverses manager. So you can see that the cul-de-sac traverse is at the bottom of the list. What that means is that it will not draw anything that it shares with any other traverses. The only things it will draw are the things that are only in that traverse. Lot 2 is in the list first. That means it will control everything that it contains, even if it's shared with other traverses. So if I want to make a change on which traverse is drawing something, let's say I want lot 3 to take control of points 3 and 4 and that property line, I'll just drag it above the other traverse, come back to my drawing, regenerate this, and now this is being drawn by lot 3 instead of by lot 2. So the sequence in the traverses manager controls this. If I edit the data anywhere in the file, it changes it everywhere in the file. So I'm going to give you a couple of realistic examples before I do something that is totally unrealistic. We're all human. We all make mistakes. So let's say when I was entering this record data, I fat-fingered something on the keyboard or I transposed a couple of numbers, all right? And I don't catch it right away. It wasn't a big enough thing to catch my eye when it happened. And so then I've continued on and I based other things on this error I've made. Well, the farther from the original error you get, the harder it can be to correct it because more things may be based on that original error. The way it works in Traverse PC is if at some point I find out that, oh, I entered something wrong on this bearing or this distance, I simply go back to where I entered it originally and enter the correct information. That's the way Traverse PC is designed to work. Let's give you a graphic example. Now, this is completely unrealistic, but it's really going to illustrate this point for you. I'm going to move point 3 about 25 feet east and 25 feet south by editing its coordinates. I want you to pay attention to the bearings and distances, square footage and acreage, all of that stuff, while I go edit these coordinates and watch what happens when I choose OK now. So everything is up to date because point 3 is shared between lot 2 and lot 3. Both of these lots are up to date. Our square footage and acreage, our bearings and distances, everything is up to date. And it doesn't matter where I access point 3. If I go back to the points manager and take a look at point 3, it has the coordinates I just entered. It does not matter where I access the point, it has that data. So if I open lot 2, point 3 has those coordinates. All right. So changing the data anywhere in a file updates the data everywhere in the file. The traverse view, you just got a glimpse of the traverse view. We're going to spend a little bit more time in the traverse view. The traverse view is the heart of Traverse PC. It's what makes Traverse PC different from other programs. The traverse view, remember I showed you earlier, every view is customizable. The traverse view is the most customizable view in Traverse PC. So you can see right now, lot 2 is set up for grid bearing, grid distance, radius, arc length, delta, northing, easting, and description. Okay? If I wanted to change this, I can go to View and choose Format View. Now you remember in the Points Manager, there was a little list of maybe like 10 items that I could put in. Well, look at all the items I can use in the Traverse view. There are things in here like radial bearings, all kinds of things. The point is that formatting your Traverse view correctly for the data that you are working with will make your life extremely easy. If we take a look at this format, our display sequence up here, BHRCQYXD. Well, B is bearing, H is horizontal distance, R is radius, C is arc length, Q is delta, Y is northing, X is easting, and D is description. And that's what we have displayed over here, other than point number and type. Those are automatic. They will show up no matter what. Now look at our edit sequence. This is key to efficiency. Notice that our edit sequence only contains bearing and horizontal distance. Let's take a look at why that is. I'm looking at my record data, getting ready to enter a record data traverse. And I look at my record data and I've got 15 calls on this boundary, you know, and one of them is a curve. Okay, well, I don't want to be going through those fields for the curve data when I'm only going to do it one time. So take a look. I'm going to start hitting my enter key. I'm in a bearing field, I'm going to hit enter. Takes me to distance. I'm going to hit enter. Takes me to the next bearing field. Hit enter. Takes me to distance. This is because of that edit sequence of BH. Those are the only fields it's going to walk me through. But at any time I was hitting my enter key, I'm going to hit the right arrow key on my keyboard. Notice I'm not even grabbing my mouse right now. That's because my hands are on the keyboard. Why do I want to reach over and grab my mouse? So I'm going to go over to radius. Now this is the line from point 3 to point 4. If I want to, I could put a radius in here and keep an eye on that drawing view. This is the fun stuff. Let's put a radius of 400. Whoops. Okay, so there's a clockwise curve. Notice that everything is up to date again. All right, my square footage and acreage on those 2 lots are up to date. All right, so everything is up to date based on this one change. Let's say I see that and I go, oh, wait a minute, that's not right. That was supposed to be a counterclockwise curve. Remember I said when I make a mistake, I simply go back and fix it. So I just come back here to my radius field and make it minus 400, and I've fixed my data. So this is the whole concept behind how Traverse PC is designed. We're going to work with the data, get the data right, the drawing will follow. Data does the work for us in Traverse PC, and you'll notice that because I have my Traverse view formatted for efficiency, I could go and enter all of those straight calls around my 15 call property and then just go to the radius field or whatever I need to define that curve and enter that one curve when I need to. So the traverse view will allow a lot of your COGO functions to just happen intuitively and automatically within that traverse view. Notice that I did not call a horizontal curve tool to do that curve because I've got my traverse formatted the way I need it. It is very rare that I have to call that horizontal curve tool. You all know how complex a horizontal curve tool has to be because of how many different ways there are to define a curve. I only need 3 things, but I've got a lot of different ways to define those 3 things. All I need is a direction, a length of the curve, and an amount of curve. But I can define those things with so many different things. So if I set Traverse PC up correctly for my data, it can make my life a lot easier. I don't have to go in and mess with that complex tool. Now there's something else that you need to know about the Traverse view and actually all these other views. What we're seeing here in the drawing, what we're seeing here in the Traverse view, this is inverse data. This is the inverse data between the coordinates of those points. Remember, I edited the coordinates of point 3. And when I did that, it automatically updated the inverse bearing and distance between the coordinates of point 2 and the coordinates of point 3. And that's what's displayed here. But also remember that I said earlier, when this file was created initially, it was created starting at point 1 and then used record data to go around and close the lot. Well, here's a little secret for you. Traverse PC has that data, that original data that was entered. If I go to the View menu, remember that this Traverse view and the Drawing view, they are by default displaying inverse data. However, in the Traverse view, I can choose to display the underlying raw data. So here's the original data that was entered to point 3. Notice that that bearing and distance are quite a bit different than what's displayed on the drawing. That's because this is the inverse information. So we have this underlying raw data stored here so that at any point, let's say I left this file in good shape, I went home, and then I come in the next morning and some gremlin got into my computer and did all this stuff to lot 2 and lot 3. And I'm going, what the heck happened here? I want to fix it now. Well, one thing I can do is I can recompute this traverse. What recompute does is it recomputes the coordinates of the points using any raw data that is contained in that traverse. If I choose yes here, we're recomputing that traverse. In this case, because of the way I did this, lot 3 is not up to date yet. That's because both of these lots need to be recomputed. If I go over here, I could select both of these lots and I could recompute both of them at once. So I can recompute both of those traverses at the same time, and now they're both up to date based on the raw data. Notice that this curve is still here. That's because that radius I entered is actually stored as raw data for that curve. So keep in mind that the traverse view by default will display inverse data, not the raw data. So one thing that some people will run into occasionally is you go back into a traverse view and you edit some data in here. Let's say I type in a different bearing and I hit my enter key and for some reason it just goes back to what it was before. It's not saying that it rejected it. Keep this in mind. They're inside Traverse PC, in the brains there, and I'm not going to pretend to understand this because I'm not a programmer. There is what's called an algorithm, and this algorithm looks at this and it says, if this, then I do that, then I do the other thing, etc., etc. Well, in certain situations, you may enter data in a Traverse, and as soon as you hit enter, it goes back to what it was before. The very first thing you should do is take a look at the raw data and see if what you just entered is there. If it is, which it should be, and I would bet it will be, all it means is Traverse PC did not, in this particular situation, for whatever the reason is within that algorithm inside the programming, Traverse PC did not recompute the Traverse. That's all it means. So all you need to do in that case is either go to Tools and choose Recompute, or click this button on the button bar to tell Traverse PC to recompute all the coordinates based on the underlying raw data. Just be aware we do store that raw data in the background. It's available to you to recompute from as needed. Now, there will be no raw data if you import a coordinate list or enter coordinates, things like that. That does not create raw data, so be aware of that. I want to point this out, the Traverse's Learning Guide. It is available through the Tasks Manager. In my opinion, the Traverse's Learning Guide is the most important, sorry, I don't know why that didn't stay up in front of us, the most important learning guide we have. And the most important chapter in it is Traverse View Format. This is where there is a lot of efficiency and time saving for you. Very important that you understand how to format your Traverse View to be most efficient with it, because the Traverse View is the heart of the data. That's where a lot of your data is going to be created. Resources. Whoops, I want to make sure you have the resources you need. I've already shown you in the Tasks Manager how to get to all these things. But we're going to take a look at a couple of them. The Learning Center, we were just there. The learning guides we've looked at. There's a What's New tab in the Learning Center. Take a look at that. We're getting ready to start releasing information on the 2018. Should have been seeing some sneak peeks in your email, some little tidbits on what's coming, but we'll be publishing more information on our website soon. Technical support options are available on our support page. I want to point this out. If I go to the support page, and this is available through the Tasks Manager, you can fill out this web form. You can even attach your files. If you're struggling with something, you can send me an email from here. Be aware that phone calls take priority over emails, so if you're in a hurry, if you're in an emergency situation, you're up against a deadline, you want to call, not email. If you do email, pictures are great, but I really need the file. So if you're dealing with a data issue, don't just send me a PDF of something. Please actually send me the TRV file as well. If you're not aware of it, at the bottom of all of our web pages are our social media links. I'm sure you're probably not even familiar with all of them, but there's one that looks very different. It's this one right here. It looks suspiciously like the tree out of our logo. Well, that's because this links you to the Traverse PC user forum on LinkedIn. This user forum is hidden. You do have to have a LinkedIn account to get to it, but you can come in, and let's say it's a holiday weekend and there's no technical support available because I'm enjoying my holiday weekend. You could come out here and connect with one of our other users and ask them a question, and they might be able to help you. Be aware that this is a hidden group. You can only get to it through one of those links. Not only that, you have to apply to join. You have to be a registered Traverse PC user. You have to apply to join. So don't wait until that holiday weekend to try to join, because you won't be approved to get in until we come back to work on Monday. So if you want to join that, I heartily encourage you to do that. A recording of this seminar will be available on the Webinar Archives tab of the Learning Center. I'll also email you with a link to it. I really appreciate all of you attending, and I hope you got something out of it. We really appreciate you. Thanks for joining us, and have a great day.